So Chris Lowe published an article this week about the inner workings of how Nick Saban left Alabama and they went and hired Kalen DeBoer. It was one of the more interesting articles I've read in a long time because it was like a super in-depth look of just the 48 hours of Nick Saban leaving, how that decision came to be made, plus who were they going to hire. I didn't realize it came down to Mike Norvell and Kalen DeBoer, and it was so close. But I think the thing that was so interesting about this article was Nick Saban was so candid in why he decided to leave. He talked about how after the game, players were, not all his players, but players were more concerned about, hey, am I going to get a starting job next year? How much money are you going to be able to pay me? And then all these little things started to come together where Nick Saban was like, hey, I'm done. And it wasn't necessarily the loss to Michigan. It wasn't necessarily NIL, but he was very open about it being a combination of all these things that made him decide to leave the Alabama job, which is just like very jarring to hear of him being like, the times are changing and I'm just not changing with them anymore.
Oh, but I thought this part was fascinating in its honesty, Stugotz, when Nick Saban, when he retired, it seemed sudden. Everyone in sports is allowed to look at that and say, hold up, this is a big deal that within 48 hours he's going to give up the sport and that economy. And he's going to be honest on his way out when he talks to Reese Davis about I'm too old for this. I mean, both of our presidential candidates are older than him, and the Alabama job is moving too fast for Nick Saban. The most interesting thing to me about the entire career of Nick Saban, and I regret calling him a used car salesman, a snake oil salesman, a vacuum cleaner salesman. When he left,
you got there.
When he left South Florida, I called him a lot of names on television and
a lot of salesman names.
Yes, I mean, look, man, he sold the Dolphins what I thought was a lie because he made a secret deal with Huizenga, and Huizenga told him, if you don't like the pros, you can go back and I'll never criticize you. And he never did. They made that deal, and Nick Saban went and conquered college sports in a way that he couldn't have. I was wrong there, famously, loudly. Wrong. Play the wrong song real quick as I segue into what I want to say about Nick Saban before I ask Lucy some questions.
You're wrong.
As wrong as I've ever been, but I will say that for all the impressive things that Nick Saban has done in his career, I don't think he could do anything better than how he just nailed the exit because holy he gets out at the perfect time where he loses all the control. You still don't think he's bad, and now he could create a broadcasting job that keeps him adjacent enough that he'll be entertaining on television by just being honest about, he can be freer, Stugotz, about being honest about how he got out, why he got out, and be a voice that feels like a commissioner for college sports. Might not be interesting, but nailed the landing. Like perfect segue from one career into the next.
He absolutely did. I think he's going to be great as a broadcaster. I think there's a sneaky sense of humor in there somewhere with Nick Saban. Hopefully he'll continue to be honest, but you're right. He went out in the perfect way because he brought a team that many thought was one of his worst teams, and he got them to the college football playoff. But I understand why he's leaving, Dan. At 72 years of age, there are so many changes to that sport. He's lost control.
He also just said in the article, it's just hard to do at this point.
He lost the control. Kids can leave whenever they want.
Oh, guys, though, look, one of the things that's so fascinating about this is that somehow it feels like within 48 hours, Nick Saban looked up. Within 48 hours, it feels like, correct me if I'm wrong, if the article had details, Lucy, that I've got wrong here. But in giving over one of the giant power economies in sports, the reason this is perfect, it's like the slow motion walk away from the explosion in the movies, is because right when you think the game might have caught up to him where he doesn't have all of the advantages and the sport has caught up to him because, oh, look at what Texas did very quickly at the perfect time with barely a loss to the national champion. You had the champions beat.
Yes.
Nick Saban says, you know what? The game caught up to me. No, never mind. It's not going to catch up to me. I'm out. I'm not waiting for any more to come to my legacy. I'm getting out at the perfect time for me.
The perfect time would be going out on top, right? You win it and you leave. I mean, he did end on a loss.
Ideal world, yes. But, Chris, he brought a team. Some people say that was his best coaching job ever last year.
I say that.
Right. There you go.
I do think it's funny.
It was still all 5 stars.
That
I was praying someone would agree.
With all the raises that Nick Saban has gotten over the years, that what kind of pushed him out was, oh, these guys want money and it's just a lot of stuff. Like, I want to raise every year, but this starting quarterback wants more money. I can't deal with this.
He never said that, like, paying players was bad, and he specified that when he talked about it. I think it was just the conversations you used to have after a season are no longer the conversations that you're still having.
The power dynamic is different.
No,
the
Chris,
power
they weren't
dynamic is
devastated by losing. They were talking about where they're going to transfer, where they're going to get NIL money next year. That's stuff that Saban doesn't want to deal with anymore.
Yeah, he even mentioned, like, he hated how the team responded to the loss, throwing helmets, like that. The whole vibe just seemed kind of off for Saban. And from, like, the what this article said, he wasn't really sure. He went on vacation with Miss Terry, and they tried to decide. They didn't. He comes back. It felt like a sort of day of decision where he just kind of woke up and was like, you know what? Today is my last day.
Who wouldn't want to retire that way? You just are like, yeah, today I'm going to do it. And in a month, I'm going to be the new person on game day, and everything is great because I'm the best that's ever done it. What a life.
I think I'm going to start calling my wife Miss Christie.
I got to be honest, I don't think we've had in the history of our show a whole lot things more charming than Lucy calling Nick Saban's wife Miss Terry.
That's her name.
I know. And every time you say it, we are delighted. I'm not confused. We knew Miss Terry in town. I believe she told us. We have the audio somewhere of her admitting that he played like the ukulele or what did he play? He played some sort of weird instrument.
Accordion?
Maybe it was the accordion.
Or was that Tom Izzo?
No,
Tom Izzo.
The Tom Izzo as well. Miss Terry told us that Nick Saban, she revealed that as breaking news around here.
The accordion really had a moment, huh? I feel like everyone was taking accordion lessons in the 60s and 70s. Dan, did you ever take accordion lessons?
I did not. But Chris has found this sound that we wrestled away from ESPN.
Oh, my husband?
Yes. When you're on the piano and
he
he's
won't be too happy if I tell you this, but as a young man, he took accordion lessons.
So wait a minute, some dirt.
Like beer barrel polka, that kind of thing.
So he comes in. So you're banging on the piano. The 19-year-old Nicholas is on the guitar, and he's coming in with a crappy accordion.
Da 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 da.
Terry, how lame is that?
The kid I babysit calls me Miss Lucy, and oh my God, the feeling I get, it is awesome.
The part that I meant, actually, Stugotz, that is the most fascinating about this, isn't him getting out perfectly because the game has caught up to him. It's because all of the things that Chris Cody is articulating there, which is, so you mean to tell me that at the very end, one of the great winners of all time who somehow built something stronger than what USC built in football with Pete Carroll or the University of Miami built.
Than anyone has ever built.
Than anyone has ever built at the place, okay, because this is big, big money we're talking about in college football. That place doesn't have any preordained right to be great at football because everybody wants to live there. Nick Saban built something when he had all the power and all the money that no one else can touch. And then as soon as Georgia and Clemson get in the game and it starts rattling at the top of the entire infrastructure, the greatest thing Nick Saban has ever done is getting out in front of that in a way that will not be remembered on his legacy in any way. He got out so perfectly that right when it looked like all the advantages had slipped away from him, he put down his ego and said, I'll leave now. I'm the best. I don't have anything left to do here.
You mentioned Clemson. It's happening to Dabo. Like, Nick avoided that because what you're talking about, Dabo was going through right now. He was considered one of the great coaches in the game, and now he's a guy who can't keep up with the game.
I don't know how he wins more in retirement than he won as a coach, but like the to get that ending where no one's going to remember that the whole thing caught up to him at the end.
That's why what he's done is so impressive, though, going off of Stugotz's comments about Dabo, because Dabo has the opportunity to reinvent himself the way that Saban had to do several times in his career. And right now we'll see if Dabo's able to do that, but Saban was.
Oh, but it's so hard. I mean,
Yes.
when George is in the game, it is so, like, it's such an unfair standard. Clemson was for so long.
Texas is in the game.
Dabo being in the money game made no sense. Clemson has never deserved to be in the money game.
I think something that makes Nick Saban even more impressive is he went through coordinators like it was nobody's business. He had like probably 11 coordinators while he was at Alabama, and no matter what, never skipped a beat. Like it was so impressive, and yeah, Dabo can't say that.